Good morning, everyone. Welcome to my podcast. My name is Corrina, and I live in the very northwest corner of the Pacific Northwest with my partner and my two Mustangs, Braggy and Odin, that I adopted from the Bureau of Land Management Wild Horse Adoption Program. I'll have a link to that in in the description box, and also our two kitties. If you follow me on Instagram, you will likely see photos of my kitties and horses. Also, I do currently have a foster horse, a thoroughbred, retired thoroughbred. He was on the racetrack in the early mid-2000s. He's 22 now, so yeah, he just needed a soft place to land, and I'll talk more about that later. But his name is Sparrow. That's his barn name, and his jockey club name is Proud Texan. So this podcast is primarily about my knitting projects and my horsemanship journey, which is why I'm called the Knitting Equestrian Nomad. So, first things first, it is Sunday, April 30th, 2023. This is episode 29. The birds are chirping. We've just had some wonderful weather lately. It's starting to cloud up again, and I think we might be expecting some rain possibly tomorrow. But it has just been really wonderful. We've had a cold, damp spring, so this change in weather has wonderful, even though the bugs are kind of out now. Good old water. I'm not wearing any of my finished objects because it is warm. In fact, I have a window open. So, yeah, and in fact, I'm wearing what I'm going to be wearing when I do my next activity, which it'll be a horsemanship activity, so I'll talk about that later. But I do want to show you finished objects. I have 3 finished objects. So if you have followed me, and by the way, welcome. If you're new here, welcome. I'm glad to have you. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for following me in my adventures. I really appreciate it. All that to say, if you have been paying attention to the last several episodes, I have had the same works in progress going on for a long time. So, and when you have several works in progress, eventually they get all done. So let me show you what I have finished. So my Hermione Socks. So I have worn these. These are by Erica Leuder. I modified the pattern somewhat. I did 2x2 rib, 12 rounds instead of, I think she calls for 20 rounds of 1x1, but I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to get into the pattern, which, makes a nice pattern. This yarn is it's hand-dyed yarn from Skein and Tipple, which is a yarn store / cocktail bar on Whidbey Island. I bought that yarn last summer. So yeah, nice squishy. I cast on 48 stitches. I do have kind of big feet, but apparently there's 2 things that are different, and why I cast on 48 stitches rather than the typical 64 stitches for an average size woman's foot. My gauge apparently is looser when I'm knitting socks, and also I use the 2.5 millimeter needles, and I think most socks are knit in 2.25, which I do not have. So yes, these fit very nicely. Second finished object is, here we go, digging around in my bag, is this Surfer's Delight hat. I made this for Randy. This is made out of scrap yarn. I made 2 sweaters for him. The green is a Tin Can Knits sweater, and I'm trying to think of the name. It was a popular pattern, and I think it was free, but it's a pullover, kind of a ribbed yoke, and then stockinette body. So that's what that is. And then the brown is it is a pattern from, I won't show you the side with the errors. It is a pattern from Rowan 2006 episode, edition, volume, issue. I think that's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, so this yarn, the brown yarn, is Juniper Moon yarn, and the green yarn is Cascade 220, but worsted weight. So anyway, this is a nice stretchy hat. He hasn't worn it yet because I just finished it just as the weather was getting warmer. So yeah, second finished object. And my third finished object is my sweater. This is the Crossvine sweater. I'll make sure I'm showing you the front. So yeah, lovely cabled, twisted rib. I haven't blocked it. I probably won't block it. Here's the back. It's oversized. This is a Berroco yarn, emerald green, I think. You know, if I did block it, this hem part would probably straighten out a little bit. Honestly, I just don't care enough. So my favorite way to wear sweaters is just to have like a t-shirt on underneath and then the sweater. So this is going to be perfect when the weather cools down again, so it'll be ready for me in the fall. Right now, I'm just going to enjoy summer. So stuff that back in my bag. And I have 3 finished objects, which I may have forgotten to bring one upstairs, unless I just stuffed it in this. Yes, I did. I stuffed it in my big bag. Could show you my bag. My mom got me this bag for my birthday a couple years ago. This is a Laurel Birch bag, and I love it. I carry it everywhere, and it's big, so it can hold a lot of knitting and a water bottle and my purse and on and on and on. Okay, on to the whips. So, if you have been following me for a while, you've heard me talk about this sweater. It's the Westland Sweater. Before I forget, the Crossvine Sweater is a free pattern by Berroco. I'm having a little trouble with my words today. It is still a little early. It's only about 8 a.m. I'm kind of digesting my breakfast and letting my horses digest their breakfast before we get on with the day. So I thought I'd do this podcast right now. So this is another Berroco pattern. This, I think, is this a Berroco pattern? The yarn is Berroco. This is the Westland Sweater. So the yoke is color work. Let me see. There we go. Cover up my eyeballs. This collar is pretty big. I am probably going to pick up stitches and hopefully have enough yarn and add at least another inch or 2 of collar. Maybe even, if I have enough, a folded over collar, because I don't like collars this big. It's kind of a 3-season sweater, meaning spring, winter, fall, you know, if the weather's mild. But I just don't like that. So I am going to adjust the collar. And in fact, on my Crossvine, I adjusted the collar. The ribbing was only supposed to be 1 inch, but I had yarn, so I made it 2 inches, and I like that better. I like the way it sits on my shoulders better. I don't like it. I mean, I think my shoulders are a little bit sloping, so, you know, having just a little extra collar helps it stay where I would like it. So yeah, this is Berroco yarn. This is Arno. The Crossvine sweater was Berroco yarn, and it was ultra alpaca chunky, maybe? I can't remember. So yeah, this is Arno, which I think is a worsted weight, although I'm not positive. So yeah, and this, after I finish the yoke, the body will be black in stockinette. So this will be a fun sweater to wear when it's finished, but the yoke rounds are big, so I only get like a couple rounds done in the morning when I knit. This is my early morning knit before work. I just warm up here. I'm not going to take off my long sleeve shirt because I have a tank top underneath it, but I don't know, that's just, it seems a little immodest. So here we go. Here's some forearms. Maybe I'll take off my slippers too. So, drink more water. So my second whip, which is in this fun bag. Tacoma is another big city that's south of Seattle. I can't read this in the mirror, but yeah, this was for a conference. I got this bag from a conference I went to. It was an on-site sewage, the Washington On-Site Sewage Association conference. So, but thankfully this is, Mount Rainier is just east of Tacoma, so that's what that is about. They got a sponsor to provide these bags, and they're just, you know, nice cotton bags, which perfect for knitting. So this is the beginning of the Rocket Tee. I have a link to the pattern in the description box. The pattern's by Tanis Lavallee, I think. So this is a cool t-shirt pattern. It's a little bit tangly because it is made from, you alternate stripes of fingering. Oh, I'm showing you on the wrong side. Here we go. Here's the right side. Fingering and mohair. So it's going to be a nice light breezy tee. Hoping to get this finished this summer. We'll see. I'm planning on doing a sock knit along here soon, and it was the Bakery Bears. I've been mentioning it, thinking it was Crazy Sock Lady, but I actually think it's the Bakery Bears, their summer of stitching that they do for their, I think if you're a patron of the Bakery Bears, which I am, you get a pattern. I think anyone can knit along if they want to. So anyway, but I should probably start prioritizing this if I want to wear it. So this is just leftover yarn. This fingering weight is from the unraveled Ghost Horses pattern that I just really have been struggling with, and it is in a big timeout with different yarn. I will say that Caitlin Hunter, who is the designer for Ghost Horses, she just released another horse-themed pattern, and I bought the pattern and have yarn for it, so that'll go on my needles too after I finish something. And then my third whip. I just finished part of it last night, so I haven't sewn in, but I'm doing fingerless mitts based on the world's easiest mitten. Oops, wrong thing. It's Tin Can Knits. This is the world's simplest mittens, and this pattern is free, and it has a pattern for any size or weight of yarn. So I have done a pair of mittens in the DK weight, and now I just decided to do these fingerless mitts, and you might recognize this yarn from that pair of socks that I showed you, the Hermione socks. So this is the first one. Cuff's a little long for fingerless, but you know, I can always fold it in half. And my vision for these is, you know, of course, spring days when I'm outside and my hands are a little cold. I can work on my computer outside if I want to. So yeah, I will be casting on a second one possibly. I need to see what the pattern for that knit along is. See if, you know, make sure I'm not using my needles, because I'm using my sock needles. No, I'm not. These are the 2.75. So I use these needles for Patton's Croy socks. You know, a little bit thicker fingering weight. So maybe I don't need those needles. So that's all I have for whips or finished objects and whips. Since all of these projects are in, you know, just sort of beginning stages, I don't have any immediate plans to cast anything on except that sock knit along that the Bakery Bears is hosting. And the free pattern, I can't remember what it is. It's kind of beach themed. Maybe beachcomber socks, so I need to go through my yarn stash and see what I have that's appropriate for that, because it's a really neat kind of cabled pattern that looks like waves or even whale tails. Yeah, so I want to make sure I have something that's not like self-striping. I don't think that would work very well. So yeah, those are my plans. Gardening, I have planted a lot of things. I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but I kind of feel like I did. But I transplanted like 100 onion seedlings around one of our apple trees, hopefully to keep the deer away, and then just planted seeds for onions around the other apple tree. We have 2 apple trees. The deer have trimmed up the arborvitaes that are kind of behind the apple trees, so, and we know that they like apple trees, and I read somewhere that onions or other alliums will keep them away. So we'll see if it works, and it seems like a good place to plant onions. If this crop succeeds, everyone is going to get onions for their for Christmas. So we'll see, because that's going to be a lot of onions. I mean, we like onions, but there's only 2 of us here. What else gardening wise? I planted a lot of pots. I planted the big aged manure pile out back, and I'm starting to see it's a manure pile that have kind of flattened out, and it's at least 2 years old. It's going to be like 3 this year, so it seemed like it was, you know, it's broken down enough. So it's like a giant kind of worm pile, like worm casting pile, like if you had a big worm bin. So that's kind of the texture of the soil, and it's pretty moist, so I'm not anticipating having to water it. But there are some seedlings coming up, so I'm super excited about that. I have some lettuce that's ready to harvest. The radishes are coming up, the peas are coming up. Seems really late for peas, but like I said, we had a cold, wet spring, so the peas I planted earlier just didn't do anything. Yeah, so I should start around Mother's Day, so like next weekend-ish, I will plant a lot of the summer crops, like the squash and the corn and tomatoes, and put those outside. So, which reminds me, I need to start some more tomatoes. I have one tomato I started in January, and it is at least 2 feet tall. So, and it's been under a grow light. So I'll do that. I need to get a little bit more organized about starting tomatoes, because it is really late. Although last year I had tomatoes just start from compost, my homemade compost, and I had spread on a front garden bed that I didn't think was it's east facing, so I didn't think it was going to get enough sun, but I got a ton of tomatoes out though, and they didn't even really grow until July. So I don't know, we had a pretty nice fall last year. So that's gardening. The asparagus is coming up. I planted asparagus last year, so we can't harvest any, but I've been seeing some spears coming up here and there, so that's encouraging. Just have to let them, feed the roots and crowns. Have a lot of rhubarb, so hopefully I'll be able to harvest that pretty soon. And I planted potatoes, just from potatoes that started sprouting, that we didn't get to, grocery store potatoes. So yeah. So I planted those in the big raised bed with the strawberries. And then the potatoes that I planted in a potato bag, same deal, just potatoes that sprouted that I just let them do their thing, kept them in the dark, and put those in a potato bag a couple weeks ago, and they are coming up, so excited about that too. Horses. So, been working with Braggy on just starting that journey of under saddle. It's a really slow process for him because he's a very sensitive horse, and you have to kind of show him like 3 times something's not going to hurt him. So, I've been trying to help accustom him to strange things and get him to think about it rather than just, bolt if he sees something that's scary. So I've been using a big exercise ball, kind of bouncing it and playing around with that, and he's accepted that. Put the bareback pad on him. The first time it fell off him, he had a big reaction, but then, just slowly touching him with it, sliding it off. He's to the point now where he can wear that bareback pad, no girth or anything, and walk around in a circle, and if it falls off, he just stops. Which, if you're a rider, that's what you want. If you fall off, you want him to just stop. You don't want him to go, oh my God, and then run away, while you're on the ground. That would be terrible. So that's what we're teaching him. I'd like to start trailer training him with some more seriousness, because I'd like to, I don't know, I have to think this through. So just hold that thought. Odin, I've been taking him out on the trails with some friends since the weather's been more agreeable. So we've gone out the last couple of weekends, and that's been really fun. He's not in very good shape, and neither am I right now. It's the beginning of the season, and last time we rode about 5 miles, and I think around mile 4 he's like, okay, are we done? And he just stops. And I say, no, we got to keep going. We're not anywhere yet. But then he walks, and then he stops. Okay, now will you get off? No. So, so that is like the last mile of the ride. Yesterday we rode about 6.5 miles, which is a little bit longer than what we rode last time, and same thing. About mile 5-ish, he's like, are we done? And he stops. No, keep going. So it was kind of funny. So we're working on that. It's funny because when we started, he was just like really amped up and kept wanting to trot. And I was like, dude, you better just, kind of pace yourself because you're going to wear yourself out. And yeah, of course he did. So, but I'm going to take him out this morning, just take him for like an hour walk. I'm probably going to be looking at a bird outside that's perched in a tree. I'm just going to mostly hand walk him. I'll probably put a saddle on him and bring my helmet too, because last time I did that, I was walking along and I didn't want to walk anymore, and I just got on him bareback with a halter, no helmet, which is bad. So I thought I would at least, go through the exercise of saddling him and doing all that kind of stuff and having proper bridle and stuff like that. So, but mostly walking, but if I get tired, then I will have my helmet and a saddle. So, so that's my plan for this morning after I'm done here. Sparrow is going, the retired thoroughbred, he is going to go to another foster home. The primary issue is that my paddocks are gravel, and he has thin soles on his feet, and the gravel kind of makes him ouchy. My Mustangs have very hard feet, and they can handle being on the gravel. So, and Sparrow's 22 years old. He is arthritic, so having, freedom of movement is important to help manage his arthritis. But with the gravel, he tends to stay in his stall a lot, and there's just not enough moving around for him. I do turn him out together for a few hours every day, even up to 6 or 7 hours, and that helps him a lot. But I think he would, the rescue organization and I agreed that having more time to walk around would be beneficial to him. And thankfully there is a person who lives not far from here who is willing to take him, and she has gravelless paddocks, so I think that will be really helpful. And that's it for the horsemanship journey right now. Breggy's going to continue training. Friday, my trainer's coming out Friday afternoon after work. Other than that, I'm going to try to see if I can possibly get Odin out for another lunchtime walk, just another quick one. Maybe during the week if the weather's decent. And yeah, that's going to be my focus, because I have it in my head that I would like to do an endurance ride. I watched a YouTube video that was filmed by a Japanese, I believe a Japanese cinematographer who did a documentary on the Tevis Cup, which is the Western States 100-mile trail ride. It's in Eastern California, kind of between near the border of California and Nevada, and it's really inspiring. I don't know if that is something I really want to do. It's a 24-hour race, and that just sounds exhausting. But doing like a little local 15-mile, 25-mile endurance ride sounds really appealing to me. So that's where I want to start, but it means getting myself in shape and getting Odin in shape so that he wants to walk more than just 5 miles. So we'll start on our little training plan with that, and maybe even join I have joined the Pacific Northwest Endurance Club. Yeah, I think that's what it is. And maybe participating in it more. So we'll see. There's my announcement to the universe, to all of you, the YouTube universe, and then beyond that. And that's what I'd like to try. So hopefully I'll have some positive updates for you that in the coming weeks, and let you know. So I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to post at the end of this. Maybe a couple photos of the maps, the tracking maps that I've ridden, maybe a couple photos of the boys, the horse boys. I don't know if I have any kitty boys pictures, but I'll post some stuff. So that's all I have. Thanks for joining. Have a great couple weeks, and I hope to have some new projects to show you next time. Bye. Trail ride with friends and dogs.